I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and what a delight to have back with us today Dr. Herb London. He is the president of the London Center for Policy Research and the co-author of an incredible book called the Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. And always a joy to have him. Dr. London, good to see you, my friend. How you doing?
Good to be with you. Thank you very much for that introduction.
Yeah, the best to you. Well, listen, as you know, yesterday was the 15th anniversary of 9/11. Are we any safer today?
Well, it's very difficult to make a judgment of that. I can tell you, we've seen the spread of militantism across the globe. That's not safe. Looking at this from an international standpoint, one could hardly say we're safer when you consider that ISIS has spread to Afghanistan and Libya and across North Africa, as well as, of course, penetrating many of the European countries as well.
Wow. All right, let's slip over to the Commander-in-Chief Forum hosted by Matt Lauer. Gave us a little bit of an insight of the two major candidates' view of ISIS. What did you think of that session?
Well, Hillary didn't admire the heat that she received over the whole question of course, her personal computer and her personal server. And there's no reason why she should have been surprised. After all, the personal server and what was on it has jeopardized national security. And if you're at all interested in the preservation of our welfare in the United States, you have to say, why would this woman allow this to occur? And it occurred in large part because of personal gain. So the fact that there was questioning of this kind is hardly surprising. On the starts talking about Putin as being a close friend and so many admirers, you have to worry a little bit about that. He says he's a strong man. Well, Mussolini was also a strong man. He's just the kind of person that you admire. After all, if you're looking at the role that Russia is playing in the Middle East at the moment, it is colliding with American interests. It is forcing the United States off the map in the Middle East, and they have become the strong horse. So I'm not sure I want to embrace Putin as someone who I regard as a potential ally.
All right, so what's the takeaway here? You've got Hillary Clinton allowing classified information to get out there on her public servers. That is a national security issue. That does reflect on her ability to be commander-in-chief. And you got Donald Trump, who thinks, well, let's work with Putin. So where does that leave us?
Well, it leaves you, the United States, in a position that is somewhat baffled by what is going to happen in the future. I mean, after all, Americans are always left with unpleasant choices. And we have an unpleasant choice again. You have Falstaff and you have Mephistopheles. What do you choose? I mean, my feeling is I prefer to go with someone I'm not entirely sure about rather than someone I'm entirely sure about. I know what Hillary Clinton is going to do. It's going to be 4 more years of Obama. That I regard as catastrophic for the country. I'm not sure what Trump will do. I do have some confidence in the people who are nearby. And so, in the end, it's a reluctant choice, but I will support Donald Trump.
What about Trump's response to rebuilding the military, and now he's running about 19% among military leaders as the candidate of choice? Does that give you any kind of hope?
Well, it does give me some hope. After all, the United States was the hegemon in the Pacific. The Chinese could not in any way challenge the United States. But the Chinese have now built an air perimeter in the South China Sea and in the East China Sea, controlling 40% of all of the world's commercial tonnage that will go into the Straits of Malaga. And you've got to ask yourself the question, we, since World War II, were responsible for freedom of the seas. Now the Chinese are saying, no, wait a second, we're going to control all of the navigational activity in our part of the world. What happened to the United States? Well, we don't have the Navy to compete with the Chinese in that part of the world. So rebuilding our military is essential. Donald Trump is absolutely correct. We can no longer go through sequestration. We've got to start building our military, building our Navy, provide sea lift, and making sure that the United States can compete against China in that part of the world. The Philippines, even though they have been contesting the Spratly Islands, have already conceded, notwithstanding the comments made by the Hague court that supported the Philippines' rights to that territory. The Chinese are saying, I don't care what's being said. We don't care what's being said in The Hague. We want control of this region. And the United States, it seems to me, has an obligation, a moral obligation, to support our allies in that part of the world.
Dr. London, how did we go for such a pro-American stance immediately following 9/11 to the weakest military in our history? How did we do that in 15 years?
Well, one of the things that I think is important to note is that we're not the weakest military. We still have a very powerful military, but we are in the descent as others are in the ascendancy. And I think it's important to understand that Mr. Obama believes that the United States' intervention throughout the last 50 years has only had negative consequences. So his belief is we should engage in systematic retreat and withdrawal. That is what you've seen across the globe. He does not fully appreciate the fact that when the United States withdraws, you create a vacuum. Just as there isn't a vacuum in nature, there is no vacuum in international affairs. That vacuum will be filled, and it is being filled by our enemies at the moment. So this rather naive view that the arc of history is working in our direction, it seems to me, is an extremely dangerous position that has been adopted by the Obama administration over the last 8 years. And the consequences of it are consequences that we see, where the United States can no longer be seen as a reliable ally and as a reliable friend.
What did you think of Donald Trump's statement when he said one of the first things he'll do in office, he'll meet with his general, give them 30 days to come up with a plan to defeat and to destroy ISIS? That's pretty strong, and it seems to be resonating. What do you think?
I think it's also correct. I think that you don't want to hit and tip your hand about the things that you will do. I think that Obama made a terrible mistake when he said we're going to pull out of Afghanistan in 90 days. I think he made a terrible mistake when he said we're putting in X number of troops and this is where the withdrawal date. You can't say that to the enemy. You're saying, in effect, wait, bide your time, and then you can attack. This is ridiculous. So I think the Trump position is correct. Get your generals together, think of a strategy, and there are appropriate strategies for dealing with ISIS. We are making significant strides at the moment in dealing with ISIS in Iraq, and we may even be in the position of forcing them out of Iraq. But the long-term view, that is what the United States does over the next few years in order to deal with militant Islam, has not been determined. That, it seems to me, is the next stage, and Trump is correct in getting together with his generals and coming up with a plan.
By the way, to our viewers and listeners, you can check in with Dr. London. It's londoncenter.org is his website, londoncenter.org. Check out his book, The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. There's a picture of it there on the screen. You may want to check that out at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. All right, Dr. London, do you think we got a little bit of a taste where some of these presidential debates may go, as Matt Lauer clearly went after Hillary Clinton and her server as a means of national security and was heavily criticized by his liberal colleagues for doing so? What do you think?
Well, look, I think Lauer was right. I mean, this is an important issue. It has to be addressed. You can be sure during the presidential debates, Trump is going to bring up this factor. He's going to say she's an inveterate liar. She's incapable of telling the truth. She's untrustworthy. She doesn't have the kind of requisite qualities for leadership in the United States. She's going to say Trump is erratic. Trump is unpredictable. Trump is sending a very, very dangerous message to our allies. And so she is going to make an argument not entirely dissimilar from his, that he is unprepared for a leadership position in America. That is setting the stage for the debate. I think Lauer pretty much hit on the right issues. The problem is, of course, the liberals are not going to be entirely happy with the way in which he addressed Hillary Clinton. And many of conservatives and Trumpians are not going to be entirely happy with the way he dealt with Donald Trump. But this comes with the territory. So, again, I think there are issues that should be addressed by both candidates. I think Lauer attempted to do that. He's not entirely artful in doing it, but he attempted to do it. And for that, I guess he deserves a little credit.
Over the weekend, Hillary had another bout with her health. Do you think this will become an issue, or is it just going to get passed over?
I think part of the difficulty is that the American public, again, distrusts what emerges from the Hillary Clinton camp. So despite the fact that the doctors are now saying she's suffering from pneumonia, there are many who are suspicious, think there's something more fundamental going on here. And there have been times in the past when people have run for office, have not been well, have died in office, and as a consequence, we see this dramatic shift in government. It's one of the factors that I think will be put into this political calculus. Again, I don't know how that's going to shake out. Hillary Clinton is going to have to demonstrate that she is healthy and vigorous during the course of the September 26th debate.
All right, my last question for you, because I know you're short on time today. Overall, Trump has made national security an issue, and it seems to be working with him. Do you think the American electorate gets it?
I think the American electorate is concerned about two issues. One is national security. How can one forget San Bernardino, Orlando, Nice, all of the events that have occurred in our recent history, the Boston Marathon, what has occurred in Fort Hood. These are events that I think are embedded in the imagination of Americans. The issue, however, is also how do we protect the American people tomorrow? What are we doing to make sure that national security is a front burner issue? And the second, of course, is the economy. We have seen that the average person has not had an increase in wages in the last 20 years. In real terms, we've probably lost 5% of our wage income. And so there are many Americans who are saying, what has happened to this economy? Where are we going? I think those are the two issues. If Trump can provide some confidence that he understands the national security question, and if he can say, I can restore some activity in the American economy for GDP growth that goes above 2% a year, I think he's the next president of the United States.
All right, Dr. London, good to see you again. Let's stay in touch. Again, he's president of the London Center for Policy Research, and he's the co-author of a book that is a must-read, the Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. You can see it there on the screen, and you can check out all his material at londoncenter.org. Again, londoncenter.org. God bless you, my friend. Talk to you again soon.
Bless you. Thank you for your great work.
Okay, we'll be right back.